Hey everyone, it's me Shimon, and welcome to episode 23 of yet another tech podcast. Happy New Year! It's the year 2020, new year, new me, not really. But hey, today I'm joined by Dmitry from Hardware Canucks. We'll be talking about a plethora of topics, including CES 2020, Ryzen 4000 CPU, Intel NUC system, and much, much more. So hold on tight to your seats, this is going to be really interesting. Don't miss it. Before we proceed, just a quick side note, this episode was edited on MSI GS65 Stealth 2019. In case you're wondering, no, this episode is not sponsored by MSI, but they did provide me with the laptop to check it out, and I must say it's pretty good. I'll be sharing more about it later in the episode, so without any further ado, let's begin. Perfect. So, for those who might not know about you, which I doubt, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay. What's up, everyone? I'm Dmitry with Hardware Canucks. That is a common saying that I use on my videos, but yeah, I've been doing this for like 7 years with Hardware Canucks now, like full time, making videos about computer related things, gaming stuff, electronics, hardware, and anything in between. So yeah.
That's awesome. So here's something I ask everyone right away. So what's your current daily driver?
My current driver is the iPhone XS.
Nice.
Yeah, it's I got it in November of 2018, so it's just over a year old. Actually, no, it's like a little bit over a year old, and it's good, but with the latest iPhone 11 Pro that came out, I want that wide angle camera so much, man.
So good. So good.
The battery life apparently has improved as well significantly, which is something that I don't particularly struggle with. Like, I work from home, so I never have to worry about like it not lasting me a full day. Just on my wireless charger when I'm working by the computer, so it's constantly get power. But yeah, the iPhone 11 Pro, I hear it's like faster, better photo, everything.
Those cameras are really nice, like especially when you compare it to the previous generation. They really took a quantum leap from 10 to 11, and it's not as impressive as from Pixel 3 to Pixel 4. I somewhat think
exactly.
like Pixel 4, it's pretty disappointing in my opinion.
Yeah, but plus the widescreen or like the wide angle, Apple did it right in terms of calibration between all three camera modules, right? In terms of color exposure.
Yeah, did you notice like how the framing literally matches with the wide angle camera when you're using the normal telephoto one? It's so good. It's impressive.
Yeah. Like, I've used wide angles on my Zenfone 6, for example, from Asus. Love the phone. I love the form factor. It's like the battery life is such a champ. It's the phone that I carry with me when I travel, so that in case the iPhone is dead, I can still have a phone. But the wide angle on that phone is just so terrible. Like, in terms of exposure, resolution, detail, it's so different versus the main shooter that it's one of those things that I want consistency, and Apple did it, man.
Yeah, you can expect that from Apple.
Yeah.
So how has the transition been though? Like, you were using OnePlus 6T before, if I recall correctly?
I was using the OnePlus 5T. So
5T.
that was my latest OnePlus device, because every other OnePlus device went to Eber, so he gets to enjoy the. But the 5T was excellent in terms of, I love the camera, like the form factor, speed, everything. I still have it. It's like my last OnePlus device, and then I kind of moved on to the iPhone because I wanted a bit more consistency, I would say. Like, my OnePlus would just it was still fast, but it would kind of stutter and like just give me a little bit of a not the same experience as when it was fresh. Whereas with the iPhone, like a year in and it feels the same way, right? So I just wanted that.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing though. So I'm using OnePlus 7. The only thing I'm lacking right now is the camera. It's so terrible in low light especially. So that's why I'm carrying a Pixel 3 3A XL for camera related stuff. So yeah, kind of works out.
The funny thing is about the Pixels, for example, like the Pixel 4 is good, but then it's not good when you compare it to the previous gen, right? So the whole comparative analysis between what was available previously is so, like, our Michael from Hardware Canucks, the editor, he still uses the Pixel 2.
Wow.
And he refuses to switch because the camera is still so good and everything else on it is still quite good that he doesn't want to switch.
That's impressive. So how was your transition from Android to iOS? Like, weren't you too heavily invested in Google's ecosystem?
Well, everything on the iOS in terms of Google apps is still, it's the same, except for like Google Assistant. For some reason, the Google Assistant thing that is available on iOS is not as strong, I would say. For example, I opened Google Assistant on my iPhone, and if I have any upcoming flights coming up, anything scheduled on my calendar, it would not show up there. But it would still be notifications, like via Google Assistant. But once I go into it, it would never go into that exact notification. So that's like the only sort of bug weirdness that I've experienced in terms of Google applications on iOS. But Gmail, YouTube, the Creator Studio, what else I use? Like all the Notes apps and stuff like that, they work just fine.
Don't you use Google Photos?
Yeah. Everything Google Photos, all my iOS photos gets backed up there, so I can access them on other devices.
One of my friends also switched to iPhone XS, and he was saying like he's facing a bug on Google Photos where every single photo is being backed up to the cloud, like as opposed to on Android where you can choose specifically which folders to sync. On iOS, it just uploads every single thing, like from screenshots to like say WhatsApp images, videos, everything in one go. So I'm like,
yeah, you're right. That's for sure. That's now that I think about you do have more flexibility with like, choosing which folder on Android to back up. But let's see. I don't think. Yeah, you're right. I don't think that exists on Google Photos.
Oh, interesting. Well, there's that. So I was contemplating to switching to iPhones, and I was like, no, I'm way too heavily invested in Google's ecosystem, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to switch. But yeah, let's see. Pixel 4 didn't even launch in India, so I'm like, oh, that's a bummer. Yeah. So maybe 4A, who knows?
Well, the iOS stuff, in terms of the notifications, they have gotten better, but they're still so far behind versus what Android offers. Like with Android, I live on the notification screen in terms of like trying to see what's happening and responding accordingly. Whereas with iOS, it's while they're still grouped, it's still such a mess. I can't.
Yeah, it
I
annoys
can't
me.
navigate that. Oh my god, it annoys me so much that it's one of the reasons why I've contemplated keeping the iPhone, but I don't know. I'm still on it, man. Not because of like iMessage. There's no particular reason, but it's the phone that has given me the most consistent experience for over 12 months, and I haven't had that with any Android smartphone. So, have you? Like, what's your experience been like in terms of consistency with the OnePlus?
OnePlus 7 has been really, really nice. I mean, it hasn't stuttered yet. Let's see down the line, but yeah, so far so good. I mean, totally smooth, no hiccups. The only thing lacking is the camera, literally nothing else. It's all good.
But like, I don't mean even stuttering. I mean just consistency of the experience.
Yes, very much. Like even after the Android 10 update, it's super good. I mean, the Android 10 gestures and everything, it's literally iPhone now. Like even the navigation bar at the bottom on iPhone, it's the exact same width on the OnePlus 7. I literally measured it. So on stock Android, like the pixels and everything, it's like a pill, like a little bar. On OnePlus, on all OnePlus devices, it's the exact same width as the iPhones. So
no.
So yeah, there's that. Pretty interesting
That's
stuff.
Funny.
Yeah. Funny indeed. So we have been talking about phones, but what about your like desktop setup or your laptop? Are you still carrying the Razer Blade or something else?
Oh yes, my Razer Blade, man. That's gonna stay with me until that thing dies or Razer's like, hey, I want it back.
So using the 2019 edition?
Yes. No, Ebers has the 2019. I have the 2018, which is like 8th generation CPU, so like 8750H instead of 9750H. But it still has a 2080 Ti, 2080 Max Q, sorry, 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigabyte SSD.
So
So
sweet.
for yeah, it's like a really good machine. I also have the Razer Blade Pro 17, which is the 2019 model, which is the 17-inch notebook.
Yeah.
And that thing is a monster. Like cooling is so much better. It has a 9750H, so slightly better CPU. But the most impressive thing about it is all that additional space for the cooler. So it boosts to 3.94 gigahertz on load on all cores on the CPU,
Wow.
which is amazing.
Really amazing. Sounds amazing. But how heavy is it? Like 3 kgs? Or how much?
Don't know exact specs, but yeah, it's quite chunky. Like it's
Big boy.
very heavy and it's much bigger compared to like the Blade 15, but compared to other 17-inch notebooks, it's actually pretty small. Like we have the Y740, I think that's the Lenovo one, and that thing is massive. Like it's at least 3 centimeters taller. Like wider in the body. And it's not something that can fit in any of my backpacks, whereas the Blade 17 can. So that's how I measure size based on like portability, if you can actually fit it in your backpack, and I can with the Blade 17.
It's funny you mentioned Y740 because one of my friends just bought Y540, I guess. No, I think it's 740. But anyway, so he bought it and it's pretty. He bought the 15-inch version, but yeah, looks better than mine. I'm using Y700 just before the
Okay.
Legion branding. I'm like, oh no, I just missed it by 1 month. But anyways.
Oh wow, 1 month? Yeah,
Yeah.
That must be a feel bad moment.
Oh yes, I just bought it before the whole 10 series GPU refresh. I was like, oh no, I should have waited for another month. But anyway, so I'm in the market
got
for
gypped.
it. Yeah, tell me about it. So I will bring this up later when we talk about Ryzen CPUs, mobile CPUs. But yeah, I'm looking forward to those because I definitely need an upgrade.
Yeah, that's gonna be. I'm excited for the Ryzen notebook launch. I mean, the fact that it's disrupting the notebook space, just as they have on the desktop side of things, it's exciting because Intel will have to. I mean, Intel right now is in a bit of a mess with their naming schemes, and the current like 10th generation processors are.
Yes.
Some of them have like lower wattage SKUs, and you as a consumer don't know that, so you think you're getting a better CPU, whereas more efficient, but like pure performance power, it's you're not getting a better product. Whereas with Ryzen, like the previous generation of Ryzen notebooks stuff, that's like nobody could vouch for them, but now with the 4000 series, it's like that's gonna be exciting for creators and for gamers too. So
Yes, indeed. So I was just looking at Eber's video on Intel's 10th generation naming scheme, and he was so frustrated. It was really.
Yeah.
It was. They will be confused. Like, what is this naming scheme? They would just compare the numbers, and then like, oh, this number is higher, so this might be better. But yeah, there's more than what meets the eye.
right, exactly. Like in terms of cores per threads, and sometimes the number scheme they're increasing, but the core to thread ratio doesn't match up, and
Exactly.
it's very confusing unless you've watched Eber's video on that and you know exactly what to expect. But when you're buying something, it's just gonna say Intel's 10th generation mobile CPU,
Exactly.
like Core i5 or Core i7 or something, or Core i9. So as a consumer, unless you're really into hardware and you know what's up, it's gonna be kind of a shit show.
I agree. So, correct me if I'm wrong. The 10th generation Intel CPUs are still on 14 nanometer, or is it 10 nanometer now?
Some are, but some aren't. So that's another thing with the 10th gen. Some are using the new manufacturing, but some other SKUs aren't. As far as I know, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that was one of the head scratcher moments as well. Yeah.
AMD literally, disrupted the market this year, I must say. And they're about to disrupt even further with the mobile CPUs. Really excited for that. So, before we jump into that, so this was your which iteration of CES? Like 5th? I don't know, I'm just guessing.
This would be my 7th.
Oh, nice. So, does it get better each year? Like, easier for you? or is it just as hectic as always?
Define easier in terms of like just attending the show and covering it, or like
Like planning and
easy.
everything, like you know which meetings to attend and you know how to save time and get more sleep, maybe, if at all, that is.
Oh, of course, yeah, yeah. I mean, the whole experience of CES in the beginning was no sleep and trying to make as many videos as possible, do as many meetings as possible. And the first, let's say, 3 years, we did like the first year we went to CES, we made 52 videos.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
So the 52 videos with two people and like editing at
Wow.
two till 3 o'clock and then going to sleep, waking up at 8, going to for a meeting at 9, and then the whole day in 1 hour slot meetings. So that was insane.
No shit. Sounds
Yeah.
insane.
I mean, it was one of those things that as a first timer for Vegas and CES, it was an exciting time of going to parties, meeting new people, and trying to see what you can accomplish, and obviously trying to overachieve the goal of like really killing it at the show.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, we've obviously really streamlined that whole procedure in terms of booking meetings and making sure that when we don't have only an hour, but an hour and a half to 2 hours per slot, and then giving us a bit of time to go to the next meeting, and then eventually planning everything so that, in one day, for example, you're in one area, another day you're in somewhere else in Vegas. So you're basically visiting the same people, in the same hotel, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So that has definitely gotten better, and we're not traveling around all the time. It's basically just arrive to one location and then do all your meetings there, and then go back to the hotel, kind of thing. But this year was very chill for us because we came with the intent to visit partners that we wanted to visit, and not really killing ourselves with meetings, and making sure that our partners know that if we have the time, we will stop by. If we don't, then we're sorry. But that's kind of life with the CES, especially for us, or for me, that has gone 7 times. Like, I don't really care about the show floor, because many other people cover the show floor and they go around and look for what is interesting around.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, it's like I want to go see what Corsair has, I want to see what Be Quiet has, and like all our partners. But visiting the main show floor and just wandering around looking for content, that's not the type of like CES I want to cover.
Yeah, plus it must be time consuming as well. Like when you have no direction, you just go and see like what's happening. And then you think about like, okay, let's cover this. So that must be, time consuming,
Right.
like I said.
But you do meet more people on the show floor, not just brands, but other creators,
Mm-hmm.
like where people are roaming around, and they're usually roaming around in groups.
Mm-hmm.
But also meeting new brands is kind of on your own time, because they would have to, it's not a matter of just showing up and getting a business card, but they would come to you and they would explain everything, literally everything that's on their floor, and that's sometimes a waste of time, right? So like,
Yeah.
we've also streamlined the part where once we show up to a booth or a partner, we will ask them, or we would know in advance like what is being new and launched at the show. We would ask them to bring us to those components and those products only, without showing us anything else that they have on display that may have launched last year or a few months ago, because we're not there to cover that. We're only there to cover the best, not the best, like the newest components. And so that helps to save time. And usually we receive like the pre-briefings ahead of time, so we know what we would like to cover. But if we don't, that's the approach we use.
Yeah, makes sense because pre-briefings always help because you get like a buffer of a week or so, and then you can plan the content accordingly. So yeah, that helps a lot.
Well, the good thing about CS as well is that you get to see products that are announced but not launched, and then by the time Computex rolls around, you can see things launched already, and it's a good reference point as to how products and that entire cycle is run.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm actually pretty happy that CS this year was, the launch of like the new Ryzen 4000, and some other interesting products, but it wasn't a super exciting thing. I think Computex would be more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, as compared to CES 2019, I would say 2020 was more. It included more stuff which made sense as compared to 2019, where everything was fluffy, if that makes sense. Like everything for show, and then nothing pops up really. So
Right.
I did find like 2020 was more focused on things that are usable.
But then there's also some products that, like, I don't know if you've seen the video from I think Gamers Nexus and their Bauer when they're criticizing CES 2020 with an example of MSI, and they have their own all-in-one cooler that was on display, and literally nobody at that booth knew what the product was. So there's always like little bits and pieces that are scattered around, and sometimes the actual product manager, the PM, is not at CES or at the show floor. So finding answers about certain products is difficult. We had that same situation with HyperX at Computex, where they were launching like their new keyboard and their switches. So we were asking them about who is the OEM for the switches, and just basic questions about the keyboard, and none of them could answer those questions. So
Oh my god.
you encounter some interesting people who are marketing, but they don't know anything about the product. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, if they can't make it to the said convention, at least they can, send someone who is trained to answer those questions. But oh well, it's their problem.
Yeah, you would think, but yeah, there's plenty of examples where you get to a booth and be like, all right, so tell me about this product, and they read you a marketing sheet that they've memorized, and not actually giving you any useful information about, the important things you want to know about. So
Amazing. Oof, tired already? Okay, never mind. Let's take a little bit of break. Go ahead, make yourself a cup of coffee. I mean, who doesn't like coffee? Till then, I'll just tell you about the MSI GS65 Stealth. My unit was configured with an Intel i7-9750H, RTX 2070 Max-Q, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and equipped with 1 TB of NVMe SSD, super fast. And also, it had a 144Hz display. Oh my god, that was so nice. Okay, when it comes to editing, everything was super smooth. Here's a little bit of context. On my laptop, I have to use proxy mode so that I can drop down the resolution to say half or quarter, so that I can edit everything smoothly without any hiccups. Well, on the MSI one, I didn't have to do that. I just edited right off the bat and everything was super smooth. When it comes to gaming, oh boy, it was such a joy, especially considering I jumped from 60 Hz to 144 Hz. The difference is night and day. So yeah, I played plethora of games including Mortal Kombat 11, GTA 5, Control, Apex Legends, to name a few. So I particularly noticed quite a bit of difference in Apex Legends because I literally won 3 games in a row when I just started playing on MSI. As they say, never judge a book by its cover. When you see the MSI GS65 Stealth in person, it's really thin, but don't let it deceive you. It's thin and light, yet very, very powerful. But considering the price of almost 2 lakhs, should you buy it? If your budget allows, then why not? Just go ahead and buy it. It's thin and light and deceptively powerful. What else do you need? And again, no, this is not sponsored by MSI. I just wanted to share my thoughts with you all because it was a great experience. And hey, if this can help anyone to make their purchase decisions, then hey, win-win situation. Alright, I see your coffee is prepared. Let's get on with the episode. So, talking about CES 2020, if I had to ask, like, top 3 things which really caught your attention, what would they be?
So let's see. Well,
if not even top 3, just anything which caught your attention is like, oh man, that is really cool.
So like from things that we visited, ASUS had some really cool stuff from the notebook side to the cases side, like their new Z11 enclosure, which is an ITX based format, kind of like a vertical tower that can also go horizontal. And as I review many cases, that is one case that I'm excited about. It looks different. It's very expensive, and I'm kind of concerned about airflow, but it's really cool to see ASUS kind of tackle the case market, because they have like 2 or 3 cases, but that's it. They're mainly known for other components and hardware. But yeah, really excited for the Z11, especially because the motherboard is angled at 11 degrees, giving you more
interesting.
space behind the motherboard for cable management and apparently better temperatures. So that is one claim I'm excited to test for.
So
Um,
is there any release date for that case?
I think it was March.
Not
Yeah.
too far away.
Yeah, so pretty close by. I think Asus also had like a new few budget Ryzen 4000 notebooks that they will be launching. They're like,
One of them was the Zephyrus 14, I guess, which had the LED pattern on the back.
well, that yes, but it isn't budget. It's gonna be quite more premium.
Yeah.
On the premium side. And I mean, the thing is, like, they marketed that notebook as a gaming notebook, but it's kind of weird because at 14 inches, it's not very comfortable to game on, you know?
True. Yeah, it's too small.
Yeah, but their A15 and A17, I think, notebooks are going to be very exciting because the price point is going to be good and it's going to have the same hardware, just without the really fancy body. So that's also like a really exciting thing from CES.
What really caught my attention was the Alienware UFO.
Yeah.
It's like Nintendo Switch on steroids. Like, wow.
And what's cool is that when the guys went to New York to get the hands on for that product, it actually felt complete. Like, it didn't feel like a prototype. It didn't feel like it was something that they made last minute. It actually felt legit and like real. So whenever that thing comes out, it's gonna be a really good competitor to the Switch, like the whole mobile gaming on the go. But I mean, the fact that it's running a full Windows 10 PC, that's kind of impressive, yeah.
Indeed, but I'm pretty sure they're not targeting the same price point, of course. But still, people who want to game on the go, they won't mind spending money on that thing, I guess, if it performs well. I mean, it was running Rocket League at... I'm not sure if it was 60 FPS, but it was running smooth, I guess. I mean, did you
Yeah,
get to
but
play on it?
No, only Ibra and Mike.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I've heard good things. Like, they were both really impressed with it. And you're right, it's not going to compete with the Switch in terms of price point and usability, but it's a cool concept that... It's also coming from Alienware, and
Yeah.
so that as a brand is pretty strong in terms of having their own core base that keeps coming back and buying products. So I'm not I'm not worried about that it becoming popular, but as long as they keep it to realistic performance and cooling, we would have like a really strong computer on our hands.
True. Okay, quick side question. Do you like Alienware's new Legend ID design system? I mean, their whole new design with the A51 and the new Alienware 15?
I don't believe I
mean,
don't
the
think
new...
I've seen it.
Oh, I mean, the new white and black design they have these days?
I mean, sure, they've always gone through some sort of white and other color schemes, so yeah, I think it looks okay. It's something different. It has a very distinct look, right? So
yeah, something really different, because earlier there was like thick and metallic look, and this suddenly is like, it's still metal, but it's like coated with something. It's white, but it's coated with a matte finish material. It's something unique.
yeah, it as long as it's distinct,
Yeah.
I think that's what they're going for.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, you can distinctively tell that's Alienware. You won't say
Yeah.
that's HP or that's Dell. No, that is Alienware.
Yeah, like their desktop system looks pretty awesome from a case perspective. That glowing thing in the middle and the curvy front section looks like a jet engine or like a spacecraft something. I don't know. I like it.
I mean, it's Alienware.
Yeah, yeah.
So, since we're talking about cases, what do you think about the Razer Tomahawk? That looks really impressive. Cute little case and powerful enough.
Yeah, it's cute, but what it's designed for, that's a whole different conversation.
Enlighten me. Like, do you have any concerns with the design?
Well, the design itself is beautiful and like elegant, but no airflow for the GPU, for example, on the glass. So it's very close to the glass panel. Obviously, if you put a mesh.
Oh yeah, the ventilation is on the back, right, and on the top. No, nothing on the sides, right?
No, nothing on the sides.
Ooh,
There will be two fans above for exhaust. So potentially any heat that is generated like right beside the glass and the GPU is being taken away immediately, but it's still, I don't know. It makes sense for them to go with glass because it's Razer and they care about looks, but it's also, I don't know. I mean, if you put a mesh panel there and the same design as the top panel, it would look so much better.
Yeah, plus it will help with airflow and heat dissipation because glass is an insulator, so I don't know how that will work out.
Yeah. But my hesitation about the Tomahawk direction isn't the case itself, but what it's meant to house, like with the whole NUC 9 from Intel and that whole PC on the PCI Express card. It's a cool idea, but as we've heard about pricing and we've done multiple videos about like why it might not be as successful as we initially thought it would be is because of price, and because of it's not user replaceable, so it removes the whole DIY element from PC building, and there's many issues surrounding the actual like daughter board design because the GPU and the actual the NUC 9 unit, or it's called the element, I think, are so close together, so the airflow is a big concern. So it didn't seem like the guys who designed the element and the guys who designed the daughter board actually were talking to each other. Whereas like we spoken with partners and they said that there might be designing their own because if you rotate the daughter board, not the daughter board, the element to face the opposite direction of the graphics card, then you don't have this competition for air because one is taking air from one side, the other one is taking the air from the other side. So it's like we'll see what happens with the element and its like uptake from the actual consumer base and gamers, but the product itself seems like it wasn't designed for that at all. It seems like it was designed for like B2B type of business.
I see. So for those who might not be aware of what a NUC is, why don't you give a quick overview what exactly it is?
So NUC is it's next unit of computing. That's the acronym stands for. But it's basically like a tiny computer. And Intel, the new NUC 9 is CPU, memory, and storage all on one PCI card that you plug into a PCI slot like you normally on a motherboard, but it's getting power from the PCI slot and an additional connector. So it's basically a full computer that's really small and you can take it out from the PCI slot and basically potentially service. But yeah, it's like a really small computer that has everything on this tiny board.
So is it configurable? Like, can you add memory and everything after you've ordered the NUC?
Yes. Normally you can swap out CPU, the NUC. You can swap out the memory and add storage. So that's what it's been like with in the past. So you'd need like DIMM memory, SO-DIMM memory, which is the shorter memory for notebooks, for example. So they are upgradable by the user, but
I don't think they're aiming at those consumers, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
They were like, I will just buy this configuration and I'm good.
Yeah. The end user won't be. It's not to like, oh, I'm gonna swap out the CPU now. It's more like I'm gonna replace the whole NUC.
Yeah. Throw it away, get a new one. Yeah, works.
Yeah.
And since we're talking about this, imagine this. In 2020, Razer announces Razer Blade like 2020 edition with a Ryzen CPU. Would you opt for it? Like Ryzen CPU, but an NVIDIA graphics card?
That's a good question. I would definitely like play around with it and see what the performance is like. But I don't know if I would switch completely, because if you ever built a computer and went with a Ryzen-based configuration on like motherboard, CPU, and maybe graphics card as well, it's not as smooth sailing as it is building an Intel/NVIDIA system. And that's kind of my concern with the notebook space. However, the notebook side of things is usually more optimized versus like you going out and building your own Ryzen machine, for example. But I'm hoping that both AMD and NVIDIA and everyone else involved works with Microsoft and make sure that like the drivers are available and that the drivers don't go and mess up your entire experience, because that has been the case for a while now from the AMD side. Like, I don't know, monitors not picking up signal even though everything's working, but you plug in an NVIDIA card and everything's fine. Like, small things that shouldn't happen but happen, and the inconsistency of like smooth experience on AMD side is kind of frustrating. Like, both me and Eber have experienced that on the Ryzen 1700X and 2700X, and like some issues that I've experienced here and there with my Threadripper system as well that I've never encountered with an Intel machine. So I hope that those issues don't migrate into the notebook space, and if Razer can deliver a solid, consistent performance without any surprises on the with the 4000 gen Ryzen CPUs, then I'll switch. Yeah, like performance probably is gonna be good, and as long as there's no driver issues, then it'll be fine.
So as compared to an all AMD system like AMD CPU, AMD GPU, is it better to have AMD CPU and then NVIDIA GPU? Like, how's the combination going on there? Like, do you face any problems? Like, I haven't tried it out, so that's why I'm asking.
Well, normally you think that everything should be fine to work, but in my experience, like a Ryzen CPU is fine, but I've had more issues with AMD Radeon graphics cards. So like with drivers not installing properly and just like having weird bugs here and there. So in my experience, NVIDIA has always been more stable and more consistent. But I haven't really used an AMD GPU in like my main system for maybe 3 years, because 3 years ago, or like 2.5 years ago, when I was using a Ryzen system, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do what everyone recommends. Just go full AMD and see what the experience is like. And it wasn't good. Like, so.
Oh, well, that's how you learn, I guess.
But still, like, I think now the issues with Ryzen in the past were memory related. That's been mainly resolved. Even though on my Threadripper system, like, I'll give you a quick anecdote. Like, I'm running 128 gigabytes of memory, right? So that's a lot of memory. It's rated for Ryzen at 3000 megahertz. But the system would crash and give me a blue screen of death like so often until I lowered the 3000 megahertz to like 2975 or something like that. And that is because for some reason Threadripper 2950X does not like even memory at 3000 megahertz. So as long as I lowered that megahertz slightly, everything's back to normal and stable. So like you would never encounter that on an Intel machine, right? So yeah, memory issues are still kind of present.
It is what it is. And talking about blue screen of death and everything, how has your experience been with Davinci Resolve?
It's been good for the last 10 months. I've had less crashes total than I've had with Premiere in my entire like editing career. And the only time I experience any issues with Resolve is when it comes to any external USB audio devices, whether it be like a USB headset that I plug in and the Davinci crashes, whether it is a sound card that I plug in with the USB, Davinci crashes.
Interesting.
So that's the only time when Davinci has been kind of a pain, but otherwise it's been solid.
Did you face any problems during the transition period, like some shortcuts or anything specific that you were accustomed to Premiere Pro, but you were like, oh, where is this option in Davinci Resolve?
To some extent, but once you migrate, you have the option to select to which shortcuts you want to apply. So you can apply Davinci shortcuts by default. You can apply Premiere shortcuts. You can apply Final Cut. You can have, I think, even like some other Avid.
Yeah,
I think those are
Vegas
shortcuts.
is also supported, I guess.
Vegas, yeah. So by default, once you're like first launching into Davinci Resolve, you can select which shortcuts you want to use, which is super helpful. But I've just stuck with the default DaVinci ones and just learned those. And yeah, it's been good. The actual transition was really simple because I forced myself to edit over the weekend for actual video projects that were supposed to like launch the week of. So you just, you start with somewhat basic editing, not doing any crazy effects, not doing any text tracking or any insane like color grading and stuff. But from the basics to now, I'm very comfortable with Resolve.
What do you think about the UI though? Somehow I don't like the UI of Premiere Pro. Seems kind of convoluted, but I feel somewhat at home in DaVinci. Like everything is cleanly labeled and everything is segmented. I don't know. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I like the UI. I don't like that you cannot have... With Premiere, you have so much flexibility. You can move windows around, you can expand them, you can position windows the way you want. Whereas with DaVinci, it's very locked down.
Yes.
So you kind of have to learn how it is and you don't have flexibility. And I mean, I don't have any issues with the UI. I like that when I click the color tab, nothing crashes. It literally just opens all the files, right? Whereas with Premiere, for the longest time, I go into the color tab and the program would crash.
Wow.
I'm like, this is ridiculous. I would reinstall my computer. I would reinstall Premiere. I would start a new project. And with nothing applied on the timeline, I would go into the color tab and then the Premiere would crash again.
Ouch.
So it was one of those things where you're like, you know what, this is enough. I'm gonna leave this behind. But I would love to have a bit more flexibility with the paneling and the UI. But I don't know. I think at least it's stable.
Yes.
That's where I'm gonna leave it. Yeah.
I agree. So we have talked about the past, we've talked about the present. Let's talk about the future. Are you excited about some technology? Maybe it's like a smartphone or some PC components which you're looking forward to in 2020?
Despite of my bashing of the new Intel NUC 9, I'm excited to see what they do with it. Not from a hardware perspective, because we know the hardware. It's gonna be 10th gen Intel something, but it's an exciting time of like seeing how that hardware component gets implemented by other partners, so like actual case manufacturers and like these sort of systems. So it would be awesome to see like a NUC 9 in a really tiny case that you can just build yourself. What else? I'm excited for the new iPhone. I've seen renders and that thing looks awesome. I really hope they bring back the design language of the iPhone SE.
Oh yes.
The little square edges, and I think that's gonna be my next iPhone.
I just
I'm
hope
not
they
sure.
bring USB Type-C.
Yeah. I've heard some rumors that like they have to, because the lack of consistency is worrying. But I've also heard rumors that they're making so much money with like Lightning connector and all the licensing fees and stuff that it's gonna be hard for them to ditch it completely.
Talking about smartphones, did you get to use any foldables at CES? Like not at the booth, but maybe some other fellow creators, like Galaxy Fold or
No.
something? No?
No, I haven't. No.
Well, it would have been fun. Even I haven't gotten the chance.
But are foldables, is that exciting for you?
No, not really. I mean, it
Okay.
looks good on paper, but until and unless you have like multiple generations gone by, maybe by third gen or something, when it's normal for consumers, then maybe I'll look into it. But right now, it doesn't excite me much, to be really honest. What's your take on
Yeah.
that?
I'm in the same boat. It's not something that excites me, even though it's out of reach. I don't think it's because of that. I think the fact that, like you say, it's first or second generation kind of product that isn't exactly fleshed out, is not exactly finished. Even though I see some creators who love it and use it, but I think it's more of a let's actually live with a foldable smartphone and see what the experience is like and share it with the world, and that's what they do. But I wouldn't wouldn't want to have a foldable just yet. Like it's nothing. I don't know. I guess I'm not on my phone that much anyway, but having a larger screen, I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand the the appeal, to be honest.
Michael Fisher completely attended CES with only Galaxy Fold as his primary device. I'm like, wow, that's pretty impressive. He literally bought one for CES. Like, oh, wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like, wow, that's dedication.
Yeah. Well, what was his experience like, if you are aware?
He was happy. That's why, like, once his review unit was gone, he was like, okay, I'm gonna buy my own unit and I'm going to use it. I'm like, wow, okay. If something works out for you, that's the best thing for you.
Mm-hmm. But maybe it's something we're not seeing, right? Like if you get one and you play around with it, and this is the phone for you, and you have to buy it, that's dedication, man. Especially if he bought his right before CES. Yeah, I mean, you got to live with the technology, regardless of how early tech it is, in order to like experience what the future might fold, right? So, I think
quite literally fold.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially with Michael Fisher, like he deserves it, man.
Oh yeah,
that guy's a legend.
Completely, yeah. Since we're talking about smartphones, have you attended MWC before?
I have not.
So do you wish to attend it?
Maybe, but it's not something that I'm drawn towards. I would go because of Barcelona. Like the city's wonderful. Although every time, man, like, do you hear stories about people's gear getting lost?
Oh yes.
And yeah, it's kind of terrifying. Like, you get distracted by walking out of a cab by someone, and then they steal your luggage, and then they steal your backpack, so you're like torn in two ways. Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah.
But in terms of the show itself, I guess it's like not something that we cover too much. I mean, we cover mobile, but
not that much, I guess.
Yeah, it's I would watch new things that are being launched, but not something that I'm like really interested in.
So I guess you're more inclined towards Computex.
Yes. Yeah, Computex is my favorite.
I love Taiwan. I miss being in Taiwan. That was really fun when I went there.
Were you there for Computex or
No. It was for HTC U11 launch. It was their 20th anniversary, so they had like some celebrations over there. So they called all the media people over there. But Taiwan was really nice. Their food is good.
Yeah.
Out of all things, I'm talking about food. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the city, Taiwan.
It's pretty nice.
All the people are very friendly, and the show is much better organized than CES because everyone's kind of in the same place instead of you needing to like hotel jump around. And usually it aligns with what our content is about as well. More computer hardware related, more components, and less electronics and like consumer stuff.
So when does it happen? I kind of forget the timeline.
Usually the last week of June. The last week of May it begins, and first week of June.
Interesting. Not that far away, but yeah.
Yeah, it's coming up. Yeah, already.
We had a good discussion, so let's wrap it up. Where can people find you on the internet?
Oh, anything Hardware Canucks? We're on Instagram, YouTube, yeah. And I have a Twitter handle too, Dmitry49.
How do you spell it? Like, I've seen multiple spellings of yours. It's different.
My name or
my... Of your name.
Well, my name is Dmitry. But everything that's like online for me is with a Dimitry because it's easier to read, I think, as I've been told.
How do you pronounce your last name, though? I'm fascinated.
In Russian, it's Novoselov. So the translation is new village.
Oh,
yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So do you face misspells and mispronunciations every often?
Yeah, but it's part of life, man.
Tell me about it. I never get my name correct on Starbucks.
Oh, yeah, I bet. That's why whenever you go to Starbucks, you cannot be Shimon. You have to be like John or Patrick, something easier to spell. So I do have like my vacation name. I am either John or like something easy to remember for them. So yeah.
That's what I do when I say I'm Shimon. Then I say it rhymes with Pokemon. So I guess that's something that people can relate to. I'm like, okay, yeah, all right. It rhymes with that.
Does it work for you?
Somewhat.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like a double-edged sword. It's unique, but people don't really get it right in the
Yeah.
first time. Yeah.
It's memorable.
E-
So next time they see you, you'd be like, Shimon, but like Pokemon. And they're like, yeah, I remember meeting you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It was great chatting with you, Dimitri. It was really
Yeah, you too.
fun. So I'll catch you on the internet.
All right, man. Thanks for the invite. And you and everyone else have a great day.
Alright, folks, that's all for this episode. I hope you liked it, and if you did, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, do your thing. And hey, if you have any questions or constructive criticism, do reach out to me. All of my social media handles are in the show notes. And just in case you can't access them, here you go. It's at Shimon IPS. That is SHIMON IPS. So yeah, just ping me on Twitter. I'll get back to you ASAP. On that note, it's time for me to take a leave, and I'll see you in the next episode. Just kidding, you won't see me. You will hear me. Bye-bye.